All right, and joining me today is Da'Mon Blackshear, who fights Luan Lacerda at UFC Vegas 74. That fight is on June 3rd. So, Da'Mon, I wanted to start here. When I was booking this interview through your agent, and we were talking about it. He mentioned you were on the East Coast, and I know you've done a lot of your training camps over at Jackson Wink before. So, is this a new change? Is this a permanent change? What's it look like for this training camp?
This it's a new change, most likely going to be permanent, man. I just like the environment. I like the weather. I like the man. It just feels good to be in Miami. I'm close to the water. I'm not in the desert, so it feels good. You know what I'm saying? I'll miss some of my training partners, but change is good.
Absolutely. And so, what is the gym situation like? Where are you working out? Who are you
So
working
right
with?
now, for the most part, I'm doing all for at least for this camp, I've done most of my stuff at KO Zone, and I've been there and I've been getting some private coaching, and we've been working and isolating drills and fucking just pushing the pace.
I like that. So has it been a lot of like very individualized sessions rather than like, sort of the larger team stuff that a lot of fighters do?
Yeah, so I'll probably have one large group sesh with the guys at KO Zone. And then for the most part, we'll get together and just kind of like have like an individualized program. And we'll just isolate some of the or troubleshoot some of the situations I get in, or the things that we're gonna run into in this fight.
That's interesting. Now, that's a situation that I actually heard Dean Thomas talk about how he thought that that was the future of MMA training. What sort of led you to this like different type of training camp?
Um, for the most, I think for this camp it was the change up, and then kind of just wanted to like, hey, I don't want any like politics or anything going on, going switching back and forth from gyms and everything. Just kind of just like, hey, get into hey, I got established that KO zone. Let me knock out this camp right now, and let's push forward. And I think it's pretty smart to, especially I know who I'm fighting, so and I know what I need to work on. So I think it was the right move.
I like that. Now, we're going to talk about who you're fighting in a little bit in Luan Lacerda, but I did want to talk about your run in the UFC so far because, you got to the UFC with an incredible run. You pick up the CFFC title and all that kind of stuff. But then you get in a crazy short notice fight, and not just a crazy short notice fight, a brawl with Yusuf Zalal. How have you felt like your run in the UFC has gone? Because, maybe the results aren't there, but damn, you've been in some exciting fights.
Yeah, it was I it sucks that it looks the way it looks, but I've definitely had some I had some great fights, and I think I've showed I have the skill and I have the level to fucking be a fucking top contender. You know what I'm saying? It's small little details that I've got to work on. The first one was a really short notice, and I put on a fucking show. You know what I'm saying, against a guy that was already established in the UFC, and then free Basharat, small little things. And it was a fight that you could easily said, if you look at it at a different way, you could be like, oh, you fucking won, but you left it to the judges. So
Yeah, and so you mentioned you don't like the way it looks, right? Nobody would like the way that it looks, but you love the performances. Does that give you extra pressure going into this fight with Lucerda? That like the results haven't been on your side, but the excitement has.
yeah, but I got to get the W. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's where the pressure is. Fucking, I gotta go in there and fucking win, and I gotta win dominantly, and that's all it is to it.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that fight in just a bit. But I did want to also ask you about your fighting career because you're one of those guys who put together an incredible resume on your way to the UFC. Some of these guys are getting to the UFC 5-0, 6-0, and they're getting signed right away. You put in the time, right? Like you were all over the regional scene, CES, CFFC. You fought UFC guys all over the place. And I know you took your first fight when you were like a teenager or just barely 20. What sort of led you into MMA at such a young age, and what kept you going through a career that a lot of people might stop at a certain point?
Oh, just a vision, you know what I'm saying? A vision and a dream. Can't let that little kid down, you know? I've always wanted to do it since I really wanted to do it when I was like I turned like 11 or 12, but it's always been around, you know what I'm saying? It's just a crazy thing to say. I want to be a professional MMA fighter, especially at that young up at age. But yeah, just a vision and a dream that I really felt, you know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
I've always pushed it, no matter what. Like I always I look I look to everything I've done since I was 12 years old has been to be a mixed martial arts.
I
But
love that. So you wanted to fight MMA at 11 years old. Now first of all, I got to get your parents' reaction. What did your parents think when you wanted to be an MMA fighter at 11?
I think I think it was kind of like laughable, like this dude, hey, say, what are you talking about? But then they seen the passion and they pushed for it. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
Had ups and downs, but for the most part, good supportive. Like,
That's awesome. So now I got to also ask, what sparked it at 11? Did you see a fight? Did you get in the gym for the first time, dust ups?
definitely. So I think it was a lot of things kind of going into it. I got into a lot of fights, kind of being somewhat being picked on, and then like starting to be like, oh, people think that's just cool. You know what I'm saying? So like then like getting some boxing gloves and going around the neighborhood asking people to box. You know what I'm saying? And having guys throw it on. Training with my neighbors' friends, and they're into mixed martial arts too. My dad used to box. My grandpa used to box, and it was just always in the family. And my uncles wrestled, and yeah, it's just kind of like everything kind of pointing to the same thing. You know, the girls dig it, like everybody. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what it was.
Well, and that little guy is now here in the UFC with a chance to pick up his first win against Luan Lacerda. So let's talk about that fight. You mentioned you know what the guy is. You've seen his tape. You know what you're going up against. Tell us what did you think of when you got the tape on Luan Lacerda and the name Luan Lacerda as your opponent?
He's nothing but respect for him, but I think I'm better than him everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Um, he's a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. You know, he's got a lot of guys when he was outside of the UFC with submissions, but now you're facing guys with that another black belt. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to catch me so easily. And on the feet, I feel like I just outscore him. That's about it.
So, I usually like to wrap these things up with a prediction then. How do you see this one ending come June 3rd?
A finish within 3 rounds.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. This has been Da'Mon Blackshear, who fights Luan Lacerda at UFC Vegas 74. That fight, once again, June 3rd. Da'Mon, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.